As a general rule, you do not want the skyline of your city to look like this. This is the city of Richmond, California, just outside of San Francisco. This was August 2012. And the thing that turned that otherwise peaceful day in Richmond into a scene more closely resembling a war zone is the thing that is sitting right at the base of that huge cloud of black smoke. You can see some of the smokestacks there. That billowing cloud was coming out of an oil refinery owned by the giant oil company Chevron. The Chevron refinery snugs right up to the city of Richmond. It's been there for more than a century. And that August day in 2012, Chevron's oil refinery just ignited. A corroded pipe inside the refinery was the cause of the explosion, but the fire stretched on for nearly 5 hours. They couldn't get it put out. Ultimately, that incident sent more than 15,000 residents of Richmond to the hospital as toxic chemicals spread all across that city. Since that day in August 2012, a little more than 2 years ago, the city of Richmond, California, and the oil company Chevron have more or less been in a state of war with each other. And it's not so much the residents of the city of Richmond, but more like the mayor and the city council. The city of Richmond sued Chevron a year ago over that explosion and more than a dozen other incidents like it over the past 3 decades. Chevron's response to that lawsuit was to personally attack the Richmond mayor for, quote, failed leadership. They also labeled the city council dysfunctional. More recently, Chevron and the city council in Richmond have sparred over a $1 billion plan that Chevron's been trying to get through to essentially modernize and enhance and kind of turbocharge their giant refinery there, the same one that blew up back in 2012. The Richmond City Council, and specifically the more liberal wing of the Richmond City Council, they've basically been a thorn in Chevron's side for years now. They want to put all sorts of conditions, safety conditions mostly, on Chevron upgrading its refinery. What does the world's most profitable industry do when something or someone is standing in the way of their interests and their bottom line? Guess what they do? This November 4th, otherwise known as Election Day all across the country, there are, of course, the big marquee races for Congress and governor across the country. But there's also tons of local elections, including an election for mayor and city council in good old Richmond, California. And in the lead up to that election in Richmond, California, billboards like this one have been popping up all across the city. Lots of them. This is one of the candidates for mayor in Richmond. As you can see, his name is Nat Bates. That's the big print. But if you read the really, really, really teeny tiny fine print on that billboard, you will see something else. Major funding by Chevron. Ta-da! Very subtle when you put it in print that small. In the lead up to this election for mayor and city council in Richmond, California, Chevron is now trying to pick Richmond's new mayor and their new city council. And why not? They've got a refinery there. They would prefer their own candidates to run local government there in order to get out of Chevron's way. And so they are trying to install their own local government. They've been putting up these billboards. They've been sending out glossy mailers like these ones to the city's residents. They've been running lots of TV ads against city council members, the ones that they, Chevron, would like to see ousted. Because California is one of those states where you have to say right on the ad who's paying for it, you can follow this as they do it. Major funding by Chevron. I mean, just for context here in terms of what they've done, the candidate who Chevron is supporting for mayor, the guy on the billboard, he's had so far $1.3 million of Chevron dollars, Chevron cash, sent on his behalf in this race for small-town mayor. $1.3 million so far. His opponent, the guy that Chevron wants to defeat, last count, he had about $22,000 cash on hand. So $22,000 versus $1.3 million for a small-town mayor's race. Chevron has run up against a city and certain elected officials that it would very much like to get out of its way. And right now, they are trying to remove those obstacles by basically backing a Brinks truck right up to that beleaguered city and opening the doors. I mean, after the Citizens United decision cleared the way for unlimited corporate spending in federal campaigns, it didn't feel like it was that much of a sort of earth-shaking national update when the court followed up the Citizens United decision with the news that it's not just federal elections. Actually, corporations can spend unlimited money in local elections, too. But little old Richmond, California right now is living that dream right now as one of the richest corporations in the history of the earth unloads money on that town. Not like it's coming out of a spigot, but more like it's gushing out of an out-of-control blown well.